Welcome back to the program. Now, journalists in Kenya today joined their colleagues in the rest of the world in marking World Press Freedom Day. Now, the day is being marked amidst calls for vigilance to protect hard-fought liberties and to curb censorship as well. That's what we want to talk about right now, and we value your feedback on this topic. What are your thoughts on the state of the media in Kenya today? 22422 is our SMS line, and use the hashtag CitizenExtra on social media to allow us to track your feedback as well. Joining me in studio are two people who know quite a bit about the evolution of media in Kenya. I'll start from my far left, Salim Amin, the chairman of Camera Picks. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Egan.
And right next to me is Rose Lukalu Owino, I hope I've said that right, founder trustee, Media Policy Research Center. Welcome to the program as well.
Thank you.
The theme this year for World Press Freedom Day, and Salim, let me start with you, keeping power in check, media justice and the rule of law. And before I get a reaction, let's take a look at some graphics that show where media is both in 2017 and in 2018 as well. So those are some of the stats. So in 2017, 65 journalists killed in the line of duty. Those are 50 professional journalists, 7 citizen journalists, and 8 media workers. All right, let's take a look at the next line. What do we have in, okay, so 32 journalists stroke media staff killed in 2018, and 262 journalists imprisoned worldwide, okay? And in 2018, actually just a couple of, this was on Monday, 10 journalists killed in the line of duty in Afghanistan. There was a coordinated double suicide bombing and a shooting as well. Where does media find itself in 2018? Salim, let me start with you.
Media is a target. Simple as that. We're painting a big, red circle on us. We are being targeted, we're being specifically targeted in most conflict zones around the world. This was never the case 10, 15 years ago, but I think, those numbers are pretty telling. We're only in April, May, coming into May, and we've already hit half of the number of people that were killed in the whole of last year. And I think it has gone down a little bit. There were, when big conflicts were happening in Iraq and in Afghanistan, there were numbers going into the hundreds that were being killed. But it also depends on the scale of the conflicts in different parts of the world. But the fact that, we're even nonchalantly talking about 68 or 32 or whatever the number, it's quite scary for me. I mean, there were days when even if 2 journalists were killed, it was a global story. Nowadays, it's an everyday thing, almost like the school shootings in the US. It's a kind of everyday thing. Nobody really pays much attention. That scares me. So I think we are targets. We basically have been compromised because of both what governments feel that journalists are doing, plus also media houses that have decided to take sides in different conflicts and different situations, political sides, opinions. The days of being unbiased and objective have long gone, and so the media workers in those organizations are the ones that are going to get the target, not the people sitting in their big offices. They're not going to do that.
They're not going to do that. Let me get your reaction, Rose. Even as you look at where you've come from in media and some of the challenges you went through, what would you say are some of the biggest issues facing media? And you could start from an international perspective and then come closer home to Kenya.
Yeah, I mean, I think just building on what Salim has said, we have more media than ever in the world. Digital technology has made media much more accessible, and many, many more players are considered journalists today. So I think that also plays into the figures that we're seeing. And then we have this unexplained sort of rise of extremism globally, And anywhere where there's that kind of extreme polarization of issues and people are trivializing life, journalists, whoever's in the way, reporting it, is an enemy on both sides, becomes an enemy on both sides. So I think these trends are really, really working against media professionals, media workers, and it's just really, really cause for concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
just we've never also had world leaders, major world leaders, criticize media and attack media the way it's happening.
Absolutely.
You look at Donald Trump in the US, and I mean, the vehemence that he has against certain media houses that don't toe the line or don't report him favorably. We've never seen that from a major.
Here. It's being
and it's now
right
being
here.
mirrored across the continent that it's okay now to abuse the media.
And to single out journalists or media houses.
Exactly.
Well.
Yes.
And
doesn't help.
all these people have supporters. And those supporters sometimes take these things, not just as a politician, spouting off, but they actually take it seriously. And then they go out and they look for those media houses when they're covering major events and they attack them.
Yes.
Sad state of affairs. Let's now take it briefly to Nakuru County, where Evans Asiba is on standby. Of course, World Press Freedom Day being celebrated around the world. And there are some events happening in Nakuru. Evans, what can you tell us about the march, I believe, in regards to press freedom that's happening in Nakuru?
Good morning to you, Wahiga. As you have rightly put it, today is the World Freedom Day of all the press men in the world. And here in Nakuru, we are not left behind. We have a procession that will take place from here, Red Place, to the various parts of this Nakuru town. And here with me is the KUJ Secretary General Nakuru Chapter, Kioko Kivandi, who is going to share with us more details about this event. And just direct to the point, Mr. SG, tell us how we prepared today.
Let me first of all start by thanking you and Citizen TV for giving us the opportunity, and all our members as well as partners who are with us today in the event. We're just going to have a procession from this one, like you said, all the way to Nyayo Gardens across the town, as we tell the world, or as we join the rest of the world in celebrating this day, which is very important to the media and journalists all over the world. And this, of course, is in line with what we are talking about this year, keeping, power in check, media, justice, and the rule of law.
Last week we had, I saw you forming the KUJ Nakuru chapter. How is that important to the media family, and how are you going to ensure that maybe you keep not only the government and all that these other institutions are in check, but also to ensure the welfare of media personalities?
The formation of the Nakuru chapter of Kenya Union of Journalists is a part of a larger narrative that we've been having with stakeholders in the industry that is aimed at improving, like you've said, the welfare of journalists in this country, but also looking at it from a holistic perspective in terms of even engaging not just employers, but also people who are training journalists to make sure that whatever we have from the point of production to the industry, is well catered for.
Lastly, as we maybe commemorate this day, are you going to recruit the members from other counties apart from Nakuru, or just strictly Nakuru County?
Yes, we agreed, and we had this discussion with the Secretary General, KUJ, the National Chapter, Mr. Eric Oduor, as well as other stakeholders, Media Council of Kenya involved. And we have said actually Nakuru is going to be a center of these other several towns, including Narok, Laikipia, Nyahururu. So we are going to recruit members from those centers, and even Molo.
Yes. As we wind up, maybe let me just also get one views from one of the media personalities who's going to tell us why you're here today and what we have to celebrate of this day.
Okay, my name is Patrick and I work for Nakuru Television. One of the reasons I think this event is important for us is this is the first time it's happening across, not in Nairobi alone. So it's the first time we're having it here at the county, which is a good sign, because 80%, according to my estimation, of stories we get, even in the national publications, they come from the counties. So it's basically good that they thought it is good to devolve this to the counties so that these people can participate.
Wahiga, you have rightly you have heard from the colleagues from Nakuru County. They all say that apart from keeping the government on check, they're also here to maybe to pay tribute to all journalists who may died on line of duty, and also to make sure that the government adhere to the media freedom. From Nakuru County, we'll be keeping you updated on the entire process. Back to you, Studio Wahiga.
Thank you so much, Evans Asiba, for that update. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta was recently on an interview with CNN's Christian Anampur, and she asked him about the state of media in the country and the recent media shutdown as well. Here's a snippet of that interview.
So now let's talk about the election, which was incredibly contested. You're saying all the right things about competitive politics and to be able to actually contest elections without violence, without censorship, without taking the media and television stations off the air. Presumably you agree with that as well.
We've got to be very clear. The only time during that entire period that the media was shut down, and it wasn't the media. Kenya is a country that has over 70 stations operating, including CNN. Over 70. Only 3 media houses were shut down. And this is after a detailed discussion prior to when the shutdown occurred with all those media houses, with all of us agreeing with our legal people that what they wanted to air was tantamount to treason. Them agreeing, them proceeding to air, and we said on that basis, those who do air that particular program will be shut down in accordance with our laws.
Of course,
and we
all this
proceeded
happened
to do exactly that for that one single occasion.
In that case, are you saying
Yes.
that this will not happen again? Because
I
a
am
free
saying
press
that
is
so
the basis of a
long,
democracy.
as we have always said, free press, and there is no country with a freer press. And I think CNN can stand to
because
verify
people did
that.
say that those 3 channels that were shut
those-
down were because they were broadcasting opposition rallies
No.
and protests.
They
and
were
other
shut
such
down
things.
on a single day when Raila Odinga went and purported to swear himself in as President of the Republic of Kenya. That was the only day, and you can do your homework and check, the only day that they were shut down. And we said that those who are going to do that, this is going to be the action. And so they were all aware.
Well, we began this interview by taking a look at what's happening around the world, but state of the media is a big discussion in Kenya. Salim, the activities or the events of the last 4 months, we haven't talked about some of the violent acts we saw against journalists at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport as well. Where would you say Kenya is right now? Do you feel Kenyan media is free to report on everything? Do you see hints of what we saw in the 1990s as well? What would you say?
Well, I mean, let's refer to the president's interview. First of all, if they had this, I wasn't privy to that conversation that he had with the media houses. The fact that the media houses even attended a meeting like this to discuss how to be monitored is worrying to me. That in itself is a very big problem if media houses, and it goes back to your question, Waiga, is the media free in Kenya? I don't think it is, because you drill down to the ownership of media houses and you have a problem there, because the ownership is very politically linked depending on where you're going and which media house you're looking for. There is a lot of politics, there's a lot of allegiance that is there in order for people to get their licenses. And remember, this is a business as well. This is not media in this country is not charity. It's all a part of a business. So they all have to toe certain lines. So the fact that they had that conversation and they were told, if they were told not to air this and they agreed, and then they went ahead and still did it, then actually the government probably does have a legal leg to stand on for shutting them down.
Because they said we sat down and we had this agreement and you broke the agreement.
And if they did that, then the government probably does have it. The fact that they even agreed to having a meeting and then further agreed to not airing this event is completely the fault of the media houses, in my opinion. The other thing is that I think, again, we're putting so much importance on television in this country. We're living in a digital age. Everybody knew that purported swearing in was happening. Everybody knew that the social media was going crazy about it. People had photographs and pictures and comments and live updates on Twitter and social media long before the TV houses had anything. So why is this, again, what I don't understand with this government is why they're making such a big deal about this. Let people go, broadcast the stuff, put it out there. Give your citizens some credit that they know what is right and wrong for them, that they give them all the information and let them choose. If you are trying to hide certain things, if you're trying to control things,
more about it. Exactly.
That's when people start getting more and more anxious and want to investigate more. When you start shutting things down, and it doesn't seem like they've learned any lessons from the 90s. And Rose can probably talk more to that than I can.
Come in now.
Yeah, no, I think we're seeing a growing intolerance to media activities, which is very worrying. I mean, I actually thought we had crossed a certain barrier, and I thought that we would not be dealing with that level of intolerance again, you know, that media should be free to air all points of view. I mean, media is just a meeting place of ideas that are resting in the public. And if those ideas are in the public, you don't blame the media for, you know, putting them out there for debate, you know. And I think I agree with everything that Salim has said, that in this age, it's almost futile to try to stem media. It will out. And it's not only now, by the way. I think if we look back to the 90s, media was completely under siege at that time. From every angle you can possibly imagine, from harassment by police, direct, not hidden, from detention without trial, court cases on defamation and sedition. There were blanket kind of customs bottlenecks to importing materials that media needed. You know, everything was done to sabotage the media business, and still information got out.
It still got out.
Still information gets out. So, I mean, I think that is the nature of information. People need it in order to create their lives, and they will look for it any which way.
And the government needs the media,
yes,
as well. And this is again,
to sell their agendas as well.
If you want to be, you know, if the media really wanted to take a stand, fine, you just boycott covering anything that the government does, and you'll be. We've had that before in the past.
Yeah.
Be very. You see how fast the government starts towing the line then, because they also need their stories to be told. They also need their information to come out. So it's got to be, you know, there's got to be some sort of a balance there. And the media has to take a stronger stand if they really believe in this. You know, shutting themselves off for 1 or 2 days or for 5 or 6 days is not going to really change a lot of things. I don't know how many people missed, you know, having Citizen or Nation or KTN on air, because they could see them online as well. And the audiences were going there. So it wasn't like they were not available.
And if I can just add to that, I think that media is actually, it actually serves government. It's like a pressure valve, you know? It allows you to know what's going on. It allows people to express and negotiate and argue and contest and whatever without fighting. You know, I mean, I think that is the absolute value. This is why we give media such space in our democracy, so that we avoid those potential, you know, more violent and more destructive methods of negotiating with each other, which other countries have chosen. I mean, Rwanda, Uganda, Sudan, they've all had wars, you know. We have chosen to allow the contestation of ideas. And if you start, media is a huge platform for allowing that.
Rose, I think it won't be fair to just talk about the external challenges affecting media, but we also need to look at the internal challenges affecting media. And I'm curious to hear from you your thoughts on the caliber of those who practice media in this country in 2018. And of course, the challenges are now different from the challenges that you had then.
Yes.
And when we were off here, you were giving me some of the experiences of some of your colleagues who chose to do stories that were considered untouchable then, and what they went through. Just bring us up to speed in terms of some of your thoughts.
I mean, I think on the whole, I think media has been a powerful tool for advancing democracy in Kenya and continues to be. But having said that, I think that we don't take full advantage of the place and the space that we have today. I mean, I think we have laws that we never had. We have laws like access to information. I don't see anybody pushing for any information that could help to tell stories that haven't been told, you know. I see, the other day I saw, if I may give an example, I saw some people purportedly representing the governor of Nairobi, you know,
dealing with
roughing up a Kenyan who wanted to say something, you know. We've gone past that, but I didn't see media taking on the governor to ask him to dissociate himself from that kind of action, because if we're reverting to a nation of violence and an economy of violence, we're going to see the surgence of goons everywhere. You know, everybody will settle their whatever with fisticuffs.
So you saw media reporting what happened, but you feel they did not go to the next level.
The next level
well, also even even the follow-up. I mean, I was looking desperately for
Yes.
another story the next day.
Yes.
Because the front page of The Nation had, had the story that day that these goons had come to the Boulevard Hotel or Jacaranda, wherever it was, and they'd roughed him up. And I kept looking for the follow-up. Okay, what happened to them? Did they identify them?
Yes.
Did they figure
Where were
out
the police?
Where were they? What happened?
In defense of the media, they were identified, and like on our social media platforms, we circulated pictures and said, these people, they're being looked for by the police, but I guess you're saying you wish you saw more?
Yes.
Follow-ups. But this is the problem with the media in general, I feel, in this country. Major scandals, major corruption incidents, whether it's Goldenberg or Anglo-Lycée or any of this. What has happened to any of these people?
Yes.
They've had their day in court. Have they? What happened to them? Were they let free? Were they sentenced? Where is the follow-up?
Yeah.
I mean, is it just because there's so many cases that we can't keep up as the media? But I really think that we're lacking there in terms of following up big stories and coming to a conclusion. It kind of leaves you,
hanging.
It leaves you hanging, yeah.
And wouldn't you say, I think it's much more important to follow up 1 or 2 good stories to completion than to chase 300 stories and none of them are properly done,
In your view, sorry, go ahead, finish.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk specifically about corruption, the impact of not chasing up those big cases of corruption is that we now have corruption everywhere,
Exactly.
at every level. You want a birth certificate, you got to give money to somebody. You want a death certificate, you got to give some money to somebody. Everything in between. You don't even have to
in Kenya anymore.
So, I mean, the failure to hold people to account to the end actually it minimizes the impact of the media. It minimizes the power of the media. We need to shine the spotlight and refuse to remove it until it is complete.
I mean, your earlier show that you had on,
yes,
they said take 2 governors, just 2, put
arrest
them inside,
them
arrest them, and things will change.
Completely.
And that's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
I think
You're
that's
challenging media,
100%.
take 2 scandals.
Well, just take 2 and get them to the end, and let the public, raise its voice. Let the public. I mean, I just hope that the public is not gone so blasé about these kinds of things that they just don't care anymore. That's my worry as well, is the way we're reporting stories. The public just doesn't care or doesn't believe us anymore because our credibility is no longer there. And the politicians have also smudged that.
Was there a time when, in your view, because you're saying right now you're not seeing it, when Kenyan media kept leaders accountable? Can you point to one story when you say, on this one, in 1995, for example, I feel that Kenyan media actually played its role? So that we have something to reflect on and then kind of understand where we got lost after that.
I mean, even if you look at the whole constitution review process, it didn't happen in one day. In 1991, we were already on that story. We were on that story. And we were giving voice to people the government didn't want heard. You had the Orengos, you had the Shikukus, you had the Martha Karuas, you had all this crop of leaders who were daring to speak out, and media were daring to support them. And nobody let go of that story. Nobody let go of that story until we came through the minimum reforms of IPPG in 1997, and then there was we need full constitutional review, and that pressure was kept on and on and on and on and on. Issues like even rights for people with HIV/AIDS. I mean, when I started reporting that issue, I was told that I'm being paid by foreign donors because they don't want tourism in Kenya, etc. They're trying to affect the tourism. And we're actually seeing people suffering. And you don't stop covering because there's a deterrent. You just keep the pressure and keep the pressure until there are new laws in place to protect them. There's sanctions against those who discriminate, and there's so many facets to every story. It's never really just one story. There are many stories on every issue that you confront. So, I mean, if we go back to the Sonko story, there's the issue of the police and their performance and their independence and are they acting independently? There's the issue of, of the culture of violence that seems to be creeping in, where each man and his mother can have an army of their own. And we saw this before. We've seen the rise of Jeshi la Mzee, and then we had some people, they were Ngorokos, being dropped into areas with spears and all sorts of things, We've seen what the culture of violence can do.
And it's creeping up
again. And
it's
creeping up again. and media must nip it in the bud and hold those who are alleged to be behind it to account.
Salim, concerns about what we're seeing, the exit of old hands in media, could this be part of the problem? If you walk into media houses nowadays, interns, people who have practiced less than 10 years of experience dominating media houses, leading media houses, is that something to be worried about?
Look, I think there has to be an opportunity given to everybody. Young people doesn't mean because they're young that they can't run a media house. That's not the case. But there has to be proper training. There has to be proper. They have to have done their time on big stories. They have to have the experience, and they have to have the respect of all the other people in the newsroom that are working with them. That's the key thing. Is that the media is all about. It's about teamwork. It's about working together. If you don't have good people that are leading those teams, that know the business, that have the respect of their fellow professionals, then you're going to have all sorts of problems. You know, being young, I don't think is a disadvantage in any way, shape, or form. It's like talking about presidents, you know, that you have to be over a certain age. You don't. You can be young and you can have good ideas, and you can implement that. And let's face it, our audiences are much younger now. So you need people that also understand what the audiences want and how to tell those stories so young people can relate to them. I think actually it's a good thing that older generation, you know, people like me are moving out of running day-to-day sort of media organizations. I think it's great for young people to come, but there is a role for the elder statesmen in that to mentor, to train, to teach, and I think that's something that hopefully, you know, older journalists can get back into is doing more training.
What are your thoughts on the trend we see, and Rose, you can come in on this as well, whereas Western media houses, if you look at some of their reporters, I mean, some of them have been doing this for 50, 60 years. Yep. What is it that happens there that allows them to feel confident to stay not just running media houses, but in the field? You will see this guy, he looks 60, 70, he's still in the field, still doing piece to cameras and doing reports. But in Kenya, if you look at our average reporter, in their 20s, in their 30s at most, is it a system thing? Is it, because that could then...
I think it's a system thing. And I think if you speak to most of the older journalists, most of them did not leave by choice. They're usually pressures, internal structures. You know, there is a dominant kind of thinking that older people are too expensive to maintain. You know, they want to be paid too much, etc., etc., etc. But I think you lose something very valuable. They say news is the first take of history, and which means that what we cover on a day-to-day basis is not written anywhere else. I remember working with journalists much older than me. I worked with Philip Ocheng, Odindo, you know, I mean, there was always this layer of people who were more experienced than me, and who would immediately feed into my story. I would, you know, what are you working on, Rose? I'm working on X, Y, Z. They'd say, oh, but this angle was covered, that hasn't been covered, this guy never answered that question, you know? I already have a story even before I sit down. And those days we were working on typewriters, you know? but I think you lose something very valuable. You lose that institutional memory.
Institutional memory, exactly.
That is not written anywhere. The young journalists cannot find it anywhere else, you know, other than in the more mature journalists. And I also think that by the time you you inculcate the code of conduct, the practice, the ethical issues usually come from experience, you know. The ability to handle them comes from experience, you know. I handled a couple of stories where I had to question myself, and over the years you develop a muscle.
That's right.
That recognizes ethical issues and ethical dilemmas and how to deal with them and when to respond. I think when you begin to see the growing number of apologies being made by media houses, it's a reflection of this. It's a reflection of this.
That the standards are dropping.
Yeah, that there's something
and that also
missing.
goes back to the universities and the schools and you know, how they're being taught, how young journalists or young Kenyans are being taught, and that there seems to be, every school seems to now be a media, you know, have a media degree. And you can't, you know, they're not qualified to, many of them are not qualified to teach those kinds of courses. You know, when we were growing up, it was, there were less but more specialized institutions that were doing training.
Yeah.
And if you came from those institutions, you had that, you know, you had that kind of ethical, you were taught how to tell stories and the ethics behind it. I don't even think, you know, ethics is a course that is taught in media houses, in media universities these days, and it's something that's really lacking, I think.
Rose, as we reflect on the past, let me get your predictions for the future in terms of where media is headed, and on a phenomenon that may not have been a very big deal in your days, fake news.
Fake news. Fake news has always been big news. It always has, but I think it wasn't...
it's President Trump who sort of now brought it out, you know, with a nice name.
And I remember even in the 90s when we had the surgence of the alternative media. We had Nairobi Law Monthly, we had Society and Finance, which were strong and credible magazines. But we also had two-page things that were being sold and scandalizing, I don't know, everybody and their brother, you know. Equally being sold and circulated in the same space, you know. I think what is changed now is the social media, for one thing, is is playing a big role in the information reaching people, and the digital technologies are actually changing the vetting. Should I say the vetting, the checking process for journalists? You know, because you need to keep your eye on social media, but you have to fact check it before you do anything. And then now also we have the immediacy of everything, the speed of everything. That was not so present in our days. When I was news editor for KTN, we were the first private television station. Our competition was Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, and there were 3 daily newspapers circulating. That was it, you know. Today we have, I understand...
You can't even count them.
You can't count them.
Hundreds, exactly.
Hundreds, you know. So there are realities of competition, of speed, of social media.
Being first with the breaking story.
Being first with the breaking story.
That is a challenge.
So that there's a challenge of creating in that environment, but it doesn't change the rules.
It doesn't change the rules. Salim, let me get the last word from you on this.
Not wrong for long. That's been one of the, one of
you said that last time.
I said that last time because it's still very true. It's even more true now, is that everyone wants to be first. Fact-checking can come later, but let's just get there first because that's where your audience is going to come to. The audience doesn't really care. They'll go and find, go and troll, other sites, and they'll forget about this soon. But the fact that you got it first, right or wrong, that to me is very, very dangerous. And this new bill that they want to pass or have passed on fake news and what they consider, again, who is making that decision on what is fake and what is not? That's what worries me. Again, to me, it's more like another control mechanism for government to keep an eye on media here, is to say, oh, well, we can shut you down because this is fake news. But there's no smoke without fire. There's always something that is going on. How fake it is, there's always something in the background that has prompted that story to come out. And good journalists should go and dig for that initial, where did it come from? They need to dig for that. That's what we are lacking, I think, in the media industry here, is those journalists that will go and spend the time, the resources to go and dig.
The 2 words to describe what you feel should be the character of a journalist in this day and age, if you could. What should they have? What should they be?
Passion.
Passion?
Tenacity.
Okay. And that, it feels like that hasn't changed from the 1990s.
I think they don't have... Well, it has changed.
It has
changed a little bit. I think there's a little bit of, forgive my saying, a bit of showbiz going on.
I hope we're not doing showbiz right now.
Well, I don't know. No. I mean, I think the most important thing that you present to the public is the information.
Okay.
Nothing else.
So if media students are watching, passion, tenacity.
Bravery. Stick with the story. Bravery.
Bravery.
Yeah.
And you?
Same. I mean, same thing.
Okay.
And the story is about the story, not about you.
Yes.
So don't make yourself the story.
Which the showmanship that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't make yourself the story. There's too many journalists that they are more important than the story.
Yes.
I don't want to hear. I want to hear what who they're talking.
You're causing me to do a lot of self-reflection, even as we're having
No, there's nothing. We'll have that conversation.
You're just supposed to introduce the show, and we can just talk. It's not about you.
Salim, thank you so much for this very honest discussion about the state of the media, and of course reflecting on the past, because to understand where we're going, we need to take a look at where we've come from, the gains that have been made, the challenges that we're experiencing, and how to deal with them even as we move forward. And even as we take a look at the state of the media around the world, we want to take you to Uganda, where we have Solomon Serawanja. He's a reporter with NDS TV. Solomon, I trust you can hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good. Good morning. What sort of challenges is Uganda's media going through on World Press Freedom Day?
Well, a very good morning from the capital, Kampala. Now, for any young democracies like that of Uganda, a vibrant and free press is very paramount here in Uganda. That, on a scale of 10, I think it is at 5 out of 10, considering the number of journalists who have been insulted. Now, yesterday, the Human Rights Network for Journalists released a report which indicated that which of course highlighted 113 cases of assaulting journalists, including 83 of those coming in from the police, Uganda police forces. We've seen the police brutally handle the media people here. Just last week, we had 2 NBS journalists beaten and arrested by the police. We have also had cases of other journalists who have been beaten. Now, so all those are chronicled in that report. What I can surely say is that Ugandan journalists have been beaten in the line of fire, mostly by the police. Now, that in a way has sent shockwaves down the spines of many. Some people have actually grown, have grown cold on covering police events. The Uganda Journalists Association here in Uganda called for a total ban on covering police events. But whether that holds, you and I know that the police is a key source of information as far as journalism is concerned. But also, I think it's important for me to highlight that the press freedom here in Uganda has also grown over the years. Now, we know that journalists here in Uganda have participated in several investigative stories that have unearthed gross human rights violations, putting, the people in government in check. And the fact that those stories can come out in Ugandan media, for me, I think is a tick. But also, I should say for sure that we here in Uganda, we can poke the people in power. Today, there is a cartoonist who drew the president. One of the biggest stories here in Uganda is the Cuban doctors. Uganda has imported Cuban doctors to help out with, providing health services in different health facilities across the country. Now, that story has received mixed reactions. But I think what was very important today is the way the cartoonist described the president lighting a cigar for one of the medical officers here in Uganda. Now, if it was in a different country, you would imagine that that cartoonist would be arrested. But the fact that you have some journalists who can be able to poke and speak truth to power, some of them not being arrested, that I think is also a tick. But also, I thought it was important for me to highlight that the Uganda Communications Commission has been has been a very big stumbling block as far as media freedom here in Uganda is concerned. That we have seen, for example, some of the media people during the fracas in Parliament when the security officials came into Parliament in the August Assembly when the debate on the age limit was going on. We saw many media houses were broadcasting it live and straight on different television stations and radio stations until when the Uganda Communications Commission warned the media houses that they would be switched off if they continue broadcasting. Now, Uganda has some stringent laws that sort of guard the media in one way or another. Many radio stations and television stations have applied for licenses, but they have not been given those licenses as we speak. So I think it's a catch-22 here in Uganda. You see some sort of media freedom, journalists being able to do some of the stories that they would not do years back, but also the legal framework and policy framework here in Uganda is a bit, a stumbling block, and also, the threats that are coming through from the police as far as covering the police brutality is concerned.
Thank you so much. That's Solomon Serawanja live from Kampala, Uganda. He's a reporter with NDS TV. I definitely see some similarities between what the media is going through in Uganda and in terms of challenges in Kenya, but also a lot of differences as well. And it's important to take a look at different locations and what is going on in that location in regards to media freedom. And from Kampala, Uganda, let's now go to Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, where John Wanyama also wants to give us an update about the state of the press in that part of the country, what freedoms they enjoy, what challenges they face as well. John Wanyama, what are the challenges on this World Press Freedom Day for journalists there?
Thank you very much, Wahiga. And indeed, in Uasin Gishu County, journalists have really encountered several challenges, especially in the recent past, where you realize that some journalists really had it rough when some of them politicians, they were not so happy maybe with some stories they were doing. And also County Askaris, you understand that like 1 or 2 months ago, they wrapped up also a journalist. Now, so far we have had almost clearly about 5 journalists who have been abused in Uasin Gishu County. So they are hoping and praying that these people will come in terms and understand the job these guys do on the ground. And today, Wahiga, what you can see behind me, these are journalists together with the Kenya Forest Service officers here. They are planting today 6,000 seedlings today to ensure that the environment is well kept. And this is a very rare issue. We have never seen a journalist coming all the way to the farm to plant trees, Wahiga. We only see them with the pens, and you'll find me like Wanyama with a microphone, cameraman, but planting trees, it has never been witnessed in this region. So we would like to talk to one of the most senior journalists in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, Mr. Kiptanui, Kenya News Agency. Tell us, what are some of the challenges you have been going through, and what are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Onyama. It's of great pleasure that the journalists or the press community in Uasin Gishu today are joining forces with the community to plant trees. We know that trees are very important in environmental conservation. The government has just released its report, with the report that they formed a committee to check on our forests. And we felt that we must be part and parcel of conserving the environment through tree planting. Today we said we are not going to hold the pen and the notebook, but we are going to go to the soil with our seedlings and plant. We know that journalists, for most times, especially in Uasin Gishu here, we have had challenges. We have clashed with some of the law enforcers, but we are saying no, we should not clash. We are part and parcel of this community. Usually when journalists are seen doing their job, some politicians and some leaders may think we are going against them. We are just the mouthpiece of the community. We are saying what the masses may not be able to say. So that is our role today. We are saying we are coming to plant, and we are joining KFS, and we are saying the World Press Freedom Day will be planting seedlings and keeping our environment clean.
Good. Wahiga, also let me talk to KFC boss here to tell us, maybe, have you ever seen journalists doing this? And maybe we normally cover you when you are planting trees. How is this today a special day for you? And do you also respect the journalists?
I'm very grateful, Bwana Wanyama, for this World Freedom Day for the press. Actually, we are marking it in a very special way here in Uasin Gishu by planting tree. You know, tree brings peace. So I'm very sure whatever has happened, it will now never be repeated. We will be coexisting with all the others, so that now we coexist and we cover. So actually, I've seen press people doing a lot of tree campaign, and here in North Rift, we want actually even to take it to a notch higher. So that's why today here in Kiplombe, we are going to plant 6,000 seedlings for the posterity and also for the future. So you are welcome, so that now we can be able now to make our country green, also to increase the forest cover. Now, currently it's 7.2, and we want to take it to 10% by the year 2022.
Beautiful, but you also concur with me that you respect the journalist work?
Yes, I do respect the journalist work. Okay. They are able actually to make sure that the world knows whatever we are doing. We might be doing our special, our good work on the ground, but if it is not told to the world, they will not know what we are doing. And really, we are doing a lot of conservation for the water, also conservation for the fuel wood, for the timber, so that now our communities in future, they will have something to get.
Thank you. Thank you. Wahiga, tuna mwandishi wa Kiswahili, gwiji wa Kiswahili katika kaunti ya Uasin Gishu. Siku hii ya leo ina muhimu gani kwako, na mbona upande miti siku hii ya leo?
Siku hii ina umuhimu manake katika siku zote zile ambazo zinaunda mwaka mzima, unapata kwamba leo ndio siku ambayo wanahabari wamepewa nafasi kukumbuka ile wajibu wao ambao wako nao katika jamii, na utapata kwamba siku hii ya leo kile ambacho tunasikitikia kukisema ni kwamba wanahabari bado ule uhuru ambao unafaa wawe nao, bado viwango vile ambavyo viko kwenye katiba, kwenye ile mashirika ya kutetea haki za kibinadamu, unapata kwamba bado vile viwango ambavyo vinafaa viwepo kwa sasa karne hii ambayo tuko tunaishi leo bado hatujafikia. Kwa hivyo labda wito wangu kwa serikali ni kwamba watu angali si wanahabari. Sisi ni kiungo muhimu katika jamii, na yote ambayo yanafanyika utapata kwamba mwanahabari ni kiungo muhimu kabisa katika kufahamisha jamii, na utapata kwamba katika zile haki ambazo katika katiba za nchi mbalimbali ulimwenguni, kila mwananchi ana haki ya kupata taarifa na kupata habari kuhusu matukio ambayo yanafanyika katika idara zote za kiserikali. Kwa hivyo mwanahabari ni kiungo muhimu ambaye yafaa apewe heshima na kule kutambulika tu, manake tusibakie tu kuonekana sasa tunahitajika wakati wa siasa na zile kampeni kuwapigia msasa ama kuwapigia wale wanasiasa debe tu peke yake. Tuheshimike.
Thank you very much, Wahiga. Those are journalists from Eldoret Town, Uasin Gishu County, and they are 52 in numbers, if I can be specific to you, Wahiga, and they are all here to ensure that this environment is well kept. And the one request or one prayer they are having today is that all people involved in the community, they are sending one message, that they are not enemies for what they are doing, they are only the watchdog, and whatever they say or whatever they tell to the world is not that they are saying or painting someone negatively, but they are also requesting for those people involved in such a thing to come out and do it correctly, how it's supposed to be done. From Uasin Gishu, Wahiga, back to your studio.
Thank you so much, John Wanyama, for that update. I hope you'll also get a chance to plant trees together with your colleagues in the media fraternity. On that note, to take a quick break, you're watching Citizen Extra. Stay with us. We have a lot of updates when we return, including the latest in terms of social media trends. But first things first, here are some quotes from some world leaders and notable speakers about the freedom of the press, what the press means, and so much more. Stay tuned.